So we're going to talk about the Lovers card 6 of the Major Arcana. And I'm going to try to describe to you what this Lovers card could mean, especially in a reading, but also in an archetypal sense. So the Lovers card is very often misinterpreted, I believe, in tarot as just romantic love. Now, romantic love is nothing to be sneezed at, and it can absolutely represent romantic love in a reading, but there is way more to the card than just being about romantic love, and it's not always about romantic love. In fact, if I were to design a deck of tarot cards, I personally would rename this card as something other than the Lovers, because to me it speaks more about the benefits of perhaps romantic love or any good reason for doing things than just romantic love in itself. And I hope to show you what I mean by that by looking at a few cards with you. So in the traditional Rider-Waite tarot, we see, sort of Raphael, the guardian angel, looking over Adam and Eve, and they're in Eden, but we know that somewhere down the line here they're going to be cast out of Eden and into the world, right? And that's where the next card, the Chariot, comes in. But right now they're sort of still in this idyllic, controlled environment. So that's the Lovers card here, and they've met, and they are absolutely the original lovers, right? But what does that mean? What is that good for? That there's that sense of that. So here in a older tarot deck, the Tarot Marseille, you see this image that you come across a lot of this man between two women, and Cupid shooting an arrow down at the same time. So along with the idea of this isn't, the lovers, you're maybe seeing mom here in a maiden, or in some cards you see two maidens. In fact, I'm going to get out another card here to show you, that as well. So here is Aphrodite and Aphrodite and Athena being presented to Paris, by, I believe, Hera. And Paris, this is the mythic tarot from, it's Greek mythology. Paris has to make a choice. Who is the most beautiful, Aphrodite or Athena? Well, what a choice to have to make. Well, we see the choice in this older card as well. But then there's this other sense, so it could be viewed as a choice. You're at this crossroads and you really have to make a choice, which decision to go in. At the same time, there is this idea of fondness and romantic love that is also in this archetype. So what's it about? Well, I really see the Golden Dawn's tarot, Tarot of the Golden Dawn, Order of the Golden Dawn's tarot, as being a great representation. Now, I could be mixing up my myth here, but I believe this is Ariadne and, is it Perseus? Anyway, he comes to rescue her, right, from the monster. And, she's been put on this rock as a sacrifice. And here comes, I believe it's meant to be Poseidon in Greek mythology. This obviously isn't a very Greek representation. But it's this idea that he has something to fight for, right, that comes across in this card. And this is a universal theme that we see in story over and over again, this idea of what are you fighting for? What is your reason for doing something? And of course, you look at courtly love concepts from medieval England, and you see the maiden with her handkerchief, giving the handkerchief to the knight, and he goes off to war for love for the maiden. Right? There's this big courtly love theme going on, very, very similar to this idea that we see in Greek mythology. What is he fighting for? The hero always goes off on the adventure or the journey for the princess. And it's not supposed to be anything that says much about a princess at all, really. The princess could be helpless or a completely independent woman. It doesn't matter. I don't think feminists really need to get into, it one way or the other, really. It's the idea of what are you fighting for? Because we see this over and over again in ourselves, right? If we're just doing it for ourselves, then whatever it is, it ain't gonna get too far. But if we have a real reason for doing something, then we're able to get a little further with our projects. For instance, perhaps you're putting on an event, and the event is for a charity. Well, the reason for the event is not for you. It's for the charity, this cause that you really believe in. And with that cause behind you as what you're fighting for, in a sense, you're able to take the event further, and you're able to become more successful because it's not about you. So I really see that idea of a crossroads, and how are you going to move forward? Why? What is the reason? Or the crossroads is a choice, Those are all archetypes that come into play. Those are all concepts and metaphors that come into play in the Lovers card. It can absolutely just be about romantic love or the idea of divine union. The number 6 can represent a very mature balance in a sense too. So there's a lot going on here. But if you really look at the idea of mature balance, union of opposites coming together, harmony, then you come back to the same thing. In order to truly connect and collaborate with another, you have to have this larger force, this larger reason behind you. It can't be about your ego at this point, right? So all of these ideas come into the Lovers. If I had to go back to the basic card and encapsulate it as a divinatory meaning, I would probably say it's about balancing and harmonizing, very often through you're coming to a crossroads and having to make a decision. Why are you doing this? And the reason should have something to do with coming into greater harmony in yourself. So the Lovers, there's a lot in there. It's one of the fuzzier archetypes for a lot of people when they start thinking of it as more than just romantic love. I hope that helps. It might be one of the more complicated explanations of an archetype I've ever given, but hopefully it's enlightened and brought more to your understanding of the Lovers. So I hope you enjoyed my mini training on the Major Arcana card, and you can go to my website www.virtualtarotschool.com to receive 21 other trainings just like this one. All you have to do is visit the website and it'll show you how to do that from there. I hope to see you on virtualtarotschool.com.